about to dance. I'm just like I said. And when I say hold yourself, I want all of you get ready to stop. When I say stop, don't move. And when I say get it, I want all of y'all to go boogie. Hold it now. Boogie woogie. Stop. Boogie woogie. Now when I say hold your step this time, I want all of you to get ready to stop. When I say stop, don't move a peg. When I say get it, everybody mess around.
Hello. Welcome to Discover RPG, which means it's Monday. Today is the 28th of November. Hi, I'm Angela. Below me is Franz, and we are back with a friend we had on the show previously. Hi, RC.
Hello.
How you doing?
Doing okay,
Good.
all things considered.
So, we delved into the fantastical and mathematical world of the hero system, the 6th edition, 2 weeks ago, last episode we had. So, we thought we would kick off today by building a character. So I've got a fillable character sheet here. RC is going to be an absolute darling and do the math for me while we do stuff. We're going to go through what the process of making a character in this system actually looks like. But before we start, first of all, I hope everybody in chat's doing well today. And we have a couple of announcements just because it's December, or it's almost December, and there's going to be some stuff going on. Our sponsor, World Anvil, runs a writing challenge every December called World Ember. And it is an opportunity for you to set a writing goal and try to get some work done on a project, a new one, or something you have existing. What is going to happen here, though, is when we do Discover RPG in December, we're going to check in with me because I am going to be doing World Ember. I might be streaming in our Discord server a bit this month, just as a little bit of accountability. But we are going to be working on the campaign setting for a game for the next season of Shenanigans that I'll be running. I'm very excited about it. It is quick preview called Bag World. It is a liminal space between demi-planes, like a bag of holding. It is where things get lost amidst arcane storage, and it will be kind of a knockoff of Spelljammer, but with a trash aesthetic. So instead of sailing in a big galleon with like sci-fi tech, it's gonna be you're on like an old swamp skimmer with a big fan on the back, or you're in a houseboat and you're going around a endless void where there are floating islands of trash and things that have gone sentient because they've been down there too long. Like in it, there's gonna be a lot of constructs in this game, like potions that all just mashed together to become one creature. I am in a way, since I'm knocking off Spelljammer, I am gonna have plasmoids in the game, but you're gonna be just like I said, a potion that has become sentient. And it should be very fun. I'm very much excited. The players that I've assembled so far already have some of their characters conceptualized, and they are figuratively and in some cases literally trash people, and it's gonna be good. So that'll be next season of Shenanigans, so stay tuned. But in December we're gonna be building the goddamn thing, because I've got little ideas here and there, little inspiration boards and Pinterest boards that I've made, but I actually want to have some substantial concepts written out before we start the game. And so you all can help me build the world. It'll be fun. Which means a new World Anvil channel. Not just Vale, which is our normal homebrew space, but Bag World will be its own adjacent campaign setting. I'm very excited about it. But we're not talking about D&D tonight. We are talking about the hero system. So, RC, let's treat me as though I am playing in a game and I have not played. I have no concept. Well, not no concept. We talked about the system already, so we're gonna assume you've explained some of the system. But let's go through what considerations you have for character building.
All right. So, I like to avoid the idea of the archetypes at first. I just like to get an idea of who you want to be in this world and specifically what you want to do. The nice thing about Hero is that you don't have to pay points for everything necessarily. Like there are, I don't remember the name of the term in D&D for the abilities that are just sort of flavor. You don't always have to pay points for those abilities in Hero. If they have a definitive regular effect that can change things in the game, sure. But like, if I am a character that can create fire, I'm not going to make you pay necessarily for the ability to cast light around you. The part of the special effect of your powers is when you turn them on, fire happens, and that causes light. So we want to figure out what you want to do, and then which of those are really worth points, and then go from there.
Okay. Well, I had you and I talked a little bit before that if we're going to be building a superhero, I've got one that I've kicked around a little bit. There's a superhero that I used in a TikTok tag, but it would be fun to build her in a game system that would actually lend itself to the kind of character. It was a very simple build, so it might be fun to either just see what a simple build is or add more to her to be a little more interesting. And since I've only got a little bit of a concept, Franz, please feel free to fill in any ideas you might have.
Yeah.
So what's a good question right now? What kind of hero or what?
So let's talk about who you were. Actually, first, give me a general idea of your powers, abilities, gadgets, or skills, or whatever. Just give me like a back of a Marvel card sort of synopsis.
The idea is being kind of a street level bruiser, fisticuffs, punching things, physicality, but taking physical damage is something that she can absorb that, and at a certain threshold, or even just at small thresholds, sort of put that into her physical attacks and kind of shoot it back out at people. Basically like absorbing kinetic energy and using it to enhance her physicality when she's fighting.
All right. Cool.
So theoretically being able to take a lot of damage and then and then outputting that. And the more she absorbs in and without expelling it, the bigger a hit she could throw.
Is it like a one-off, like absorb, and then pow, and then you're back to normal, or is it
kind
like
of? It's like you're letting it out, like you're expending it in that hit, or she could like let out little bursts at once, like from a finite source. It's not like she levels up. It's that she's got like a tank she can work from.
I have a couple of ideas on how to do that.
Sure.
Which we will get into. Some of them are more complicated and some of them are less complicated.
All
right, so where did your powers come from? What is your background, your power source?
So I liked the idea of doing kind of a metahuman thing, that it's something that she was born with, that she discovered over the course of her young adult life. Because that's not really a power that you would really notice unless you were getting into fights.
True. I mean, it might be one of those things where, like,
go ahead.
It manifested in an accident, like you got into a bike accident or a car accident or something. So there's all sorts of ways it could have manifested. When did it manifest for you? You say young adult. Is it like a puberty thing, like with mutants? Is it?
Yeah, I was thinking as she became a young adult, that was sort of when it became at least something that she could control, or she could harness. I definitely like the idea that maybe as a kid something happened, like let me see. Like, okay, so riffing off of something that genuinely happened to a family member of mine, but there's extenuating circumstances that won't be in this situation. Second story balcony on a house, and as a little kid, just like slipping through the railing.
Oh no.
This child ended up landing on the family dog and was totally fine, but but that kind of thing, like a something that would have been kind of devastating, but totally fine. Like just a accident prone kid, but never actually getting hurt. Not quite knowing where that, like, just feeling like, oh, you were just a real lucky kid.
Okay. All right. Who are you without the powers?
I had built her to be a, she's basically a public servant. She's a librarian. She's a city librarian.
All right. College education, I assume.
Yeah. She likes using the library as a place to, like, keep kids off the streets, sort of thing. And then
okay.
So it's sort of like doing after school programs and stuff to give kids a place to be.
All right. And do you have friends or family that the story would necessitate getting involved if someone discovered who you were?
She probably has a small but pretty strong friend group. Whether it's coworkers or people who honestly, it'd probably be people who she's met through the library. So it'd either be like someone was a tutor and she's hanging out with them now socially because they're there all the time. So yeah, she has a few close friends. I don't think her family lives in the city where she's currently living. She's from out of
if your
town.
character was in a comic book with these characters and she was part of a group, would her friends make guest appearances or like regular appearances?
I would say probably guest appearances. She would have I saw her as spending a lot of time with the with like any supers that were in that city. she wouldn't be opposed to having friends that were like also super powered. That's the thing. She kind of a mundane. She's a bit of an adrenaline junkie. So like, the library is a good place that like she's doing it partly because it's wanting to give the community a safe place, but she also is like, yeah, but at night I'm gonna go patrol. Like I'm not gonna hang out at the library at night.
Got it. Okay, we can start with that. All right. If you were to build a D&D character, give me her stats.
She'd probably have pretty high constitution, I imagine. If one of her basic concepts is, do you want me to give you like actual numbers or just like prioritizing them?
Draw numbers for me. We'll adjust if we need to.
Okay, let's say a 20 strength, maybe a 20 constitution, 16 or 18 strength.
She's buff then.
Yeah, she that's the thing. I assumed her strength was probably also part of her power set, but it's just sort of it's probably lower priority than the actual ability to take damage, and then
what we're going to do is we're going to build her as though she doesn't have any powers first,
okay,
and then we're going to layer the powers on top.
Gotcha. Okay, so then 20 constitution, probably a maybe like a mid-range dex, think like a pretty fast boxer kind of, so maybe like a 16 dex, maybe 14 dex.
Yep.
She'll have a decent intelligence, probably, yeah, 12, probably 14 intelligence. Charisma's gonna be half decent, so like a 12 maybe, but then her wisdom's gonna be kind of low.
Now, would you say that she has a strong willpower?
Yes, I would.
So if you were going to give willpower a stat here, like just like with D&D type of thing, what would you give it?
Well, willpower achieves what exactly? Like what kind of things does that?
Anytime you have to push yourself to overcome either an internal flaw, like you have certain codes of conduct you have to follow or certain phobias, anytime you have to overcome that, it's an ego roll or a will roll. Anytime you have to shake off some sort of mind control effect or like the presence of another person. There are very impressive people in the Champions universe and the Heroes multiverse, and presence can be used to affect the people around you. The higher your ego, the easier it is for you to resist that type of influence.
Okay, maybe like a 16.
Okay. All right. So your base stats for now, and we can come back to it. Strength 16, Dex 16, Con 20, Int 14, Ego 16, and 12 Presence. If you want to write that one down, you can. The 10 Strength is 6 points, 12 points for the Dex, 10 points for Con, 4 points for Int, 6 for Ego, and 2 for Presence.
What was the strength point total?
6.
6. Cool. Okay.
We'll jump into the second set of stats. Your OCV is your offensive combat value. Your DCV is your defensive combat value. You can adjust these through training and various other things. But what would you say that your characters, if you were going to give it like a base attack bonus from D&D, what would you say that she would have normally, not including any, if she did boxing or anything like that?
Sure, yeah. I'd give her like a I'm assuming we're at like starting level for this, like level 3 or 4, but
we can start there, and then depending on points left over, you may have been adventuring for longer.
Sure. Maybe like a +7.
All right. So for now, and so here's the question: like, what would you put as your armor class then?
She's probably got like a. I'm trying to think of probably like a 16 armor class.
Okay. All right. So we'll go with that for now. So just put a 7 for OCV and a 6 for DCV.
Okay.
OMCV and DMCV is the same idea, but for mental stuff.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Not 16 DCV, just a 6.
Yeah, I fixed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're on a delay with the stream.
Oh, got it.
I got you.
All right.
Okay.
So where do you feel like you would be? Do you feel like you have any experience with, or do you think your character would have had any experience with mental stuff? It's not part of your character's power suite, based on what you've described to me, but it could be, maybe your OCV isn't anything, but maybe because you're librarian, maybe you're higher willed, your DMCV could be higher.
Yeah, I was thinking that her defensive mental stat would be pretty okay, but her offensive one probably wouldn't be very much.
Okay, so OMCV, leave it 3, which is base.
Okay.
And we'll bump up the DMCV to 4, just because you haven't trained at all, but you are willful.
Gotcha.
Now, speed is a little bit of a complicated question since you've never played the game before. An average person has a 2, but I usually highly recommend that unless you're playing the tankiest of bricks, that you go with speed 3 or more. Speed 5 and 6 tends to be martial artist level. Speed 6 to 8 is like speedsters. Energy projectors, depending on their power level, could be speed 3 or 4 or 5. So
4. I'll split the difference. She's not slow, but she's not going to be a super fast.
Sure. Without your powers, how tough are you? Like, are we
maybe
talking
slightly better than average? She's athletic, but she's not. I do think that she has some boxing experience. So
would you say that, like, not a super fast car, but like a car going at like sort of busy street speed, if it hit you, do you feel like you'd get bruised from that, or do you feel like you'd be able to roll it off and be okay?
She'd get a little bruised, probably.
All right, so let's put you at, we'll start with 4 PD.
Okay.
And you probably don't have as much exposure to energy stuff, so we'll keep your ED at 2, which is standard. Your recovery. Recovery basically is you take a breath and you get that recovery number back in stun and endurance.
Okay.
Do you feel like your character stays winded for a long time, or can she like recover that sort of stamina quickly?
I think she has pretty good recovery. I think she can bounce back.
All right, so let's put that up to an 8 for now, and then we'll go from there. How long can she go? And now, literally stamina or endurance. How long can she do stuff before she gets tired? It starts at 20.
Okay.
And so let's go into a little bit of points for this. Every 10 points of a power, generally speaking, costs 1 endurance. Roughly. So like your 16 strength, if you hit someone with your 16 strength, it costs you 2 endurance. You use 2 endurance every 3 segments because you're speed 4, and then at the end of segment 12 you would naturally get a recovery on your own. So right now, if all you're doing is swinging with all of your might, you can do that all day.
Okay.
If you're running around and swinging, it's going to be a little bit taxing on you, so you might have to every so often pause and take your own breath. But
Sure.
you know,
Okay. So, what's
so
the
how so the endurance is what do you want that reserve of power for yourself essentially to be? 20 is what it starts at. You're burning 8 every, or you're burning 2 to 3 every one of your turns, and then you get 8 back at the end of
okay?
post roll.
So your endurance is like a pool.
Yep,
Okay.
it's a resource.
Gotcha.
It's also the resource, unless we do things differently, but it's the resource that normally your other powers go off of as well.
Okay. Well, then I'd probably want that to be pretty decent. So maybe, what if I'm doing that? Am I actually increasing it by 10 every time, or am I increasing it by 1?
You can increase it by whatever you want.
Oh, okay. Oh, then let's go with, until I really have a good sense of how much my powers are spending. Let's do like 25 for now.
Okay. Body is how much physical damage your body can take before it stops functioning and you die. So you have to take negative your positive body score to be killed.
Okay.
So 10 is standard. That is 8 to 10 is what your average person has, but 10 you spend no points on.
Okay. Are we still considering without powers, or are we saying like at this point?
Yes, because
Okay.
you're depending on how we buy your powers, you may have more body or you may just have more defenses.
Okay. 20? She's, I don't know. I don't have a good sense of what the range of cost on that is.
Well, let's come back to body because I think the stat you're going to want to improve more is your stun.
Okay.
Your stun score is how easily you stay awake.
Gotcha. Okay.
So think of that like your stun score is kind of like your HP in D&D, where once it drops below 0, that's when you can't do anything.
Gotcha. Okay. What's a decent range for stun?
Well, you start at 20.
Okay.
People who tend to get into physical altercations a lot could have 30 to 40, 35 maybe. I think most martial arts characters tend to have sort of mid 30s. If you're talking about like a brick, you could have much higher, like 50 or 60. You're not going to go above 60 though, because we're going to try to keep things at 60 active cap.
Let's go 40. She's pretty good at taking damage and staying in it.
All right, we're going to leave body at 10 for now. We'll come back to it because body is also a representation of how physically large you are.
Oh,
the bigger you are, the more body you have.
She's just human sized.
Well, yeah, but like for a human, like if you have a 20 body, you're bulky.
Yeah, she's not like super jacked.
Okay. All right, and then we can do points for these things. Go up to OCV.
Okay.
It is 20 points.
Okay.
15 for DCV. None for OMCV. 3 for DMCV. 20 for speed. 2 for PD. 0 for ED. 4 for recovery. 2 for endurance. None for body, and 10 for stun.
Okay. Then let's add that up.
All right.
So it's 116.
Yes. Yep. Now, down on the bottom right of your page, there's a movement section.
Okay.
The standards are what's written in there. 12 meters running, 4 meters swimming, etc. We can change that. So This is how far you can move if you do nothing else during one of your phases.
Okay.
So that means that you're running 12 meters every 3 seconds.
Okay.
If you're, and you can technically you can sprint and double that, but in combat, as long as you want to be able to like jive out of the way of stuff, you're moving it 12 meters every 3 seconds, or about 4 meters a second, which is, it's quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Am I pitching an adjustment to it, or?
Well, it's a question of, do you want to move further? If you're thinking in game terms, this is 6 hexes of movement. Instead of using squares, they usually use a hex map.
That's fine. Yeah.
So this is 6 hexes of movement if you do nothing else. If you want to hit something, unless we can talk about move throughs later, which you will probably do because you're an absorption person.
Mhm.
But generally speaking, if you want to move and then punch someone, you can move 3 hexes and then hit them. If you want to move further, we've got to up that number.
Gotcha. I don't mind keeping her at a standard movement, to be honest.
Then we will leave that for now. Okay. Let's jump into... We'll get to skills in a second. I'm going to jump around a little bit on this sheet. All right, so let's start with talents. Talents are things that your character naturally has. They're not really training things. They're just things that you're able to do. Mm-hmm. There's a decent list of them, but I'm going to ask you questions about the ones that probably make the most sense for you.
Sure.
Are you ambidextrous?
No. Well,
okay.
I'm debating. I hate that I'm already debating on the first one. Let's say no for now.
Okay. What sort of... Nah, that's probably... You were human originally. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that your senses would be changed because of your power suite. So that's probably not true. Are you double jointed?
No.
Okay. Do you have eidetic memory?
Let's say yes for now.
Okay. So you can go ahead and write that down at the top of the skills, perks, and talents section. It is 5 points.
I don't remember how to spell eidetic.
E-I.
E-I, okay.
D-E-T-I-C.
Damn, got it in 1. Okay.
Very nice.
You said 5?
Yeah, yep, just 5.
Okay.
I don't think you'd have environmental movement unless we want to get funny with it and say you have environmental movement libraries, but let's leave that alone for now.
I really know my way around the stacks.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could, if we really wanted to do that, then basically like if there was a super messy library, you could move through it with ease while other characters would be like stumbling over books and whatever. We'll come back to it if you really want it.
No, it's not a big deal.
There's lightning calculator, which you're not really a numbers person.
No.
Light sleep is a thing.
Just
You sleep very lightly, you wake up very easily.
No, I don't think that's a problem she has. I think she's probably a pretty deep sleeper, especially if she's had a fight. I think using her powers probably takes a little bit out of her at the end of the night.
That's fair. Do you have perfect pitch?
Yes. Because I had already decided. I had a silly backstory thing that she likes karaoke.
Hey, that's fine. So that's 3 points.
Oh my god. Sure.
So if you want, I can define it for you. A character with this talent can tell the exact pitch of a musical tone by listening. Perfect pitch also adds a +1 to any music-related skill roll.
Let's do it. Yeah. Sounds great.
I have another little bit of a silly question. Do you have speed reading?
Yes. Oh my god. Of course.
All right. So how fast are we talking here?
I don't have a good sense of.
Well, the base is 10 times as fast.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, cool. So that's 4 points.
Okay.
You probably don't have what's defined as a striking appearance. I don't think you have
No,
a
she's
match.
probably. Yeah.
All right, so those are your talents. Let's talk about. We'll come back to perks because those are things that can be generated later. Let's talk about skills.
All right.
Skills are they're like D&D skills. The list is longer, but the idea is the same. They're things you're trained in to do.
Yeah, let me. What book would that? Is this all in? Is
Skills would just be in the main book. Let me pull up.
I'll say there's a whole skill book.
There is a whole skill book, but that's more than we
Different.
need for now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Skills starts on 54. The skill list is on 61. 62 in the PDF, but it's 61 on the actual pages.
This is the Champions book. That's all right. Basic rulebook. There we go.
I was not looking in the basic rulebook. It probably is in the basic rulebook. I was looking in Hero System 6th Edition, Volume 1.
Ah, gotcha. Volume 1. Okay. Okay, skill list. I got it.
All right. So, it's long.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's go through and figure out a couple of things really quickly first. You are a professional librarian, yes?
Correct.
All right, so let's just put that down at the 2-point level. So, when you're writing it down, you can just write PS for professional skill and then librarian.
And you said 2?
Mm-hmm. Okay. 2 gives it to you on an 11 or less. If we want, we can change it so it's based on your intelligence, which is 3 points, but gives you a higher number. But we'll come back to it.
Sure.
So you are a professional librarian. Is there anything else that you've done professionally that you would say your character could do for a living without having to study or anything like that?
Probably teaching, but I think librarian is probably the focus.
So were you a teacher?
No. She,
Okay,
like I said, she has like after school programs and stuff, but it's not really like she's not the one tutoring people. She's just kind of giving the space.
Got it. Okay. What does your character know things about? Like, if you needed, in a stressful situation, to be able to pull information off the top of your head.
I think she probably knows her neighborhood pretty damn well.
All right.
So, like, local area stuff and, like, people, movers and shakers and stuff. Just, like, the general lay of the land in terms of, the social network of people.
What do you want your city name to be?
It
can be real world or not real world. Doesn't matter.
Sure. Let's call it... I want to give this to Franz because I don't have a good name.
I was trying to think of one. I'm not good at naming like places. I'm really good at naming people. Hold on. Oh, well, I don't want real places. Hold on.
We can go back
Stop,
and
I don't
change
want
it.
real places.
We can go back.
Yeah, let's go
I'm gonna
back
put
to
Eon. I'm gonna put Eon City for now,
Sure.
just for funsies.
Sure, sure, sure.
So let's just do these on 11 or less, and then if there's stuff you feel like you really know, then we can up it.
Okay.
What would
we label that as?
CK is city knowledge, so CK Eon City, 2 points.
Okay.
Oh, and for both of these, they are 11 or less, so you can put like 11 and then a dash afterwards. And that's the general idea of how they're noted on the paper. All right. As your so let's talk about who else you know. You said you know the movers and shakers. Are you talking about
Local politicians, people who have there's any gangs in town, in the neighborhood, or people who wield power over average people in the neighborhood? You'd be aware of them, I would think.
So let's say let's just say that for now you have the knowledge skill of local gangs. You don't necessarily know specifics within each gang, but like you know who they are and sort of their general MOs and how they interact with each other. So you have a knowledge skill there. So just KS for knowledge skill, local gangs, 11 or less.
Okay.
Let's do. I think we're gonna leave the city knowledge for the politicians. I think that makes the most sense for that.
Okay.
And we'll just leave space for a couple of other knowledge skills, just in case as we are coming up with the character,
Sure.
and talking about what the character's done so far, maybe there's other groups that she would know.
Sure.
But for now, that's okay. All right. Going back to the list, just looking through the A's, acrobatics is acrobatics.
Sure.
Acting, specifically trained on how to be a thespian usually.
Okay.
But in general, how good you are at pretending to be someone else or pretending to feel something else.
She's okay at that. I think she'd be maybe a little less likely to flounder during doing that if she had backup, if she wasn't the only person doing it. She's willing to like kind of throw herself into stuff, but I don't think she's overtly like super skilled at it.
Does she have training on it, or is it just like what people normally have?
Yeah, it'd be normal.
So there's something called an everyman skill. An everyman skill you don't pay any points for, and it is 8 or less. So we don't have to write it down. Generally speaking,
default.
if you're not trained on it, it's just an 8 or less on it. So don't worry about writing it down. We'll leave it there. Breakfall is specifically how to fall without hurting yourself.
I think she would know
gymnast
how to do.
and
I feel
martial
like she
artists,
would know how to
things
do
like
that. Just
okay. So your breakfall is 3 points. It is on a 12 or less.
here.
I'm going to assume that bribery and bugging are not her things.
Nope.
Bureaucratics?
Maybe very minimal. Because of just like local politics of needing to keep the library open and like
Do you know how to cut through red tape, extract information from bureaucrats? Do you know the right people to talk to for just about anything and how to reach them?
I want to say yes.
I have a master's degree in library science, like in real life, and it's literally having a master's degree in Googling shit and knowing how to find information. So I think she would know a little.
So let's give you bureaucratics. It's 3 points. It's an 11 or less. Currently, we can buy it up later if you feel like she's particularly good at it. But right now, she's got.
I think she's okay at it. She can.
She's got. So that's average. Charm. is specifically gaining others' trust by offering companionship or favors. Can range from making friends to getting on someone's good side to outright sexual seduction. Charm is normally not something you'd use on PCs, but that's the
Sure.
general idea of the skill.
I think she's okay at that. Yeah, I think she might have a skill in that. She's a bit of a firecracker, which can appeal to some people.
Now, so here's the first point we're going to come to, where it's a question of not do you want to be able to do it. Is this something your character has actively trained in?
Trained in? No, not actively
Right.
trained. The only example I would give maybe is that if she is doing a lot of the like I said, if she's doing a lot of sort of like after school programs for kids, like wanting to get like high schoolers to spend their time in a safer place, she might have a little bit of training on how to like conflict resolution kind of stuff and like relating to kids and trying to like build rapport so that they would actually stay in the programs. That's the only example I would think that she might actually be trained in that.
Okay, so that's not charm.
Okay, then no.
Okay, so we'll come back. We'll come back to that idea. We can
Sure.
look at what you can do with that, because that's probably more persuasion.
Oh, sure.
All right, climbing. I'm going to assume she doesn't go rock climbing, but she
No,
could.
She does not. Well, I was gonna say break fall. She started hanging out with a bunch of parkour kids.
We didn't talk anything about her driving ability or anything like that. So
I don't think she has special driving ability. I think she's an on-foot kind of person.
All right. Does she have training in fighting? We talked about what she was like without that. Let's talk about what she is like with that.
I think she does have some at least sports combat. Like I said, boxing and that kind of dueling sort of thing. Maybe a little MMA, but mostly boxing.
Okay, so then what we can do, we'll come back to combat skill levels in a bit then.
That's
But
fine.
likely what we'll do is we'll give you a very basic like martial arts package, and that may or may not come into play with your powers. We'll see how it goes with power levels and such. How are you with the computers?
Half decent, but not like specifically trained really well in it. So she's not a hacker.
All right. But not so much.
No.
I'm gonna say probably not concealment, which is specifically the art of hiding
espionage.
something on your body.
Yeah, no, probably not.
Not contortionist.
No.
Conversation. Let me just double check the definition of that one. Extract information from people with careful conversation, and or to be an entertaining conversationalist.
I think she's decent at that.
Yeah, it's the thing about customer service, especially when you're trying to help
Thank you,
people, trying to
Franz.
help people find something,
That's
is
true.
that you have to understand what they're not saying.
That's true.
Right, you have to
Right.
figure out what they need versus what they're actually telling you they need, and you gotta like kind of
Yes.
interpret that.
That's fair.
And you have
So
to, in the back of your mind, you gotta juggle everything at the same time. So absolutely, I think she'd be very good at that skill.
All right, so that's 3, and it's an 11 or less.
Okay.
Or less. Why is it 11? Oh, because it's based on presence. Got it. All right, that makes sense.
I might
Okay.
want to adjust presence just because I like keep thinking about the kind of character she is, but we can go back to that eventually.
Cramming, I am going to, as a librarian, I'm going to insist you take that.
Okay. That's
So
not on my
cramming,
list, but yeah.
so cramming is an intellect skill that allows you to acquire a basic understanding of a non-combat skill quickly. You need several hours to study the skill. You have to access to learning
Oh, yeah.
resources like a teacher or library. And then after that, you get a familiarity with it, or you get basic conversation in a language. It's basically if you take cramming, it basically gives you the opportunity to get a skill that you don't have on your sheet for
It's
a
called
limited time.
being a researcher, so 100%.
Right, exactly.
That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's gonna be definitely above average on that one.
So cram it's actually just a 5-point skill. It
cool.
doesn't have a roll on it. You're assumed to be able to do it. And it gives you an 8 or less or a basic conversation or something like that. And then beyond that point, we can figure out a way to do that. How many different skills can you, I guess, acquire this way?
What's the range?
5 points per cramming.
5 points per cramming. So it's she can do it, but how many can she hold at the same time?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I would say 2. Let's give her 2.
Okay.
So that's 10 then?
Yep. I'm going to say criminology is probably not your bag.
No.
Cryptography? Probably.
That might be pushing it a little bit.
Okay. Probably not deduction.
Okay.
You said boxing was the main one, right?
Yes, boxing would have been her main.
Boxing is a one-on-one fighting style, so defense maneuver is not something that you would have picked up there.
Okay.
It's not necessarily something you wouldn't pick up at some point, but I'm going to say for now you don't have it because we're creating you sort of at the beginning, and then as we go through further, we may come back and add to that.
Okay.
Defense maneuver basically means that the varying levels of it eventually mean that you can't, like, people can't gang up on you effectively, or they can't like get a free shot at your back or things like that because you've trained to be aware of your surroundings. And the higher levels of defense maneuver make it more natural and automatic, and basically take bonuses away from people who are working together against you.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense to not have that.
No demolitions, no disguise, no electronics. No. You don't fight with guns or weapons, so no fast draw. Probably not forensic medicine, no forgery. Do you well, maybe forgery. Do you forge stuff?
No, I don't think she would.
Are you sure? Maybe there was a child who forgot their
signed their parents.
Let's skip it for now. Let's skip it for now.
That's a very different type of forgery, though.
Keep in mind, these are also things that you want to use, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have that much on here yet, so we're doing okay. Sometimes when people make character sheets, they're like, "Oh, I want all of these things."
If you make Batman, you know,
Batman is like a 700-point character. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
Probably not gambling. You don't sound like high society.
No, she's middle
class.
Not.
Probably not interrogation or inventor.
No.
Languages. What do you speak?
She probably speaks a couple of things that I think she probably at least speaks one other language other than English.
Pick one.
Spanish, probably.
Okay. How fluent are you?
Conversational, I would say. She's...
Are you basic, fluent, completely fluent, idiomatic, imitate dialects? Those are the 5 basic levels. I think
she's... I'm gonna say she's... We're gonna say she's completely fluent. We're gonna live in a fantasy world where it's much more likely to be actually bilingual.
I mean, maybe she grew up in essentially the Spanish Harlem, or she grew up in an area that has enough Spanish speakers that she grew up speaking it. So
yeah, I would imagine.
So just language, Spanish, completely fluent, 3 points. You can put completely fluent in parentheses if you'd like.
Okay. 3 points.
Lip reading feels like something you could do.
It does feel like something. Yeah, I like it.
So that's 3 points for 12 or less.
Okay.
I'm gonna assume no to lockpicking.
No.
Yeah, we'll come back to martial arts. We're gonna put that at the bottom.
Probably
not mechanics.
No.
Mimicry, navigation.
No.
Oratory.
Maybe?
I feel like only if you're regularly doing public speaking.
No, she's not.
All right. Paramedics, like paramedics would make sense if you're in charge of kids very often and you have to be in charge of their physical health. But
Sure.
you could also just have it at the 8 or less familiarity, which is 0 points.
Yeah, let's do that.
Familiarity. Oh, sorry, 1 point. Familiar, because it's one of those
Okay.
skills where it's not an everyman. So 1 point to paramedics, 8 or less.
Okay.
And that 8 or less number feels like it can be hard to hit, but there, like if you have a first aid kit or something like that, then it can make things easier for you. My cat is meowing at the door because she wants to go out.
Oh,
Just give me a
no.
second.
Yeah, sure. So how are you doing, Franz?
Thinking about city names.
You could always find a city name generator.
I did. I have a couple. I think Beaucourt is a really cool name.
Beaucourt. That's fun.
Beaucourt.
I've always I have one in my back pocket that I use sometimes, New Hanover. Which I use because it's what Charleston,
that.
South Carolina used to be called. Or it was called
Yeah.
Hanover, so I called it New Hanover. I use that for a like a Southern Gothic setting that I use. But
Yeah.
Beaucourt, that's fun.
Beaucourt is it's not for like a really big city. There's also Gareville.
Beaucourt sounds like it needs to be followed by the word township, like it's in Louisiana.
Beaucourt Township.
Beaucourt Township? Yeah, it sounds like something with a library. That's funded.
Looking down the rest of this list,
Mhm.
I'm going to say that the only other ones I want to talk to you about, Persuasion.
I think Persuasion's going to be a pretty good one for her.
3 points, 11 or less. Streetwise.
I think would be pretty high.
So you know the seamy side of civilization.
Yeah, the idea that she's a street level, like kind of bruiser character. She deals with street level crime. She's probably pretty aware of local gangs and stuff. Partly uses that to help deal with them, but also partly uses them to keep kids out of there. So I think she's maybe she treads the line a little bit between like do-gooder and do as I say, not as I do.
I mean, streetwise, the definition of streetwise is basically written for the way you're describing. Character knowledge of the seamy side of civilization. You know how to find the black market, talk to thugs and criminals, gain information, deal with organized and not so organized crime figures. You know who the main powers on the street are in the underworld and the location of their spheres of influence. So this pretty much fits into the bill. We're going to give it to you on a 13 or less for now, which is 7 points.
Okay.
I'm going to say for now that we're not doing some of the team stuff just because we don't.
It's fine.
We're not building this character currently as part of group.
Right.
There is tracking, probably not.
She could probably trail somebody, but
That's shadowing. Do you want that?
yeah, sure.
Okay. So that is 3 points for a 12 or less.
Okay. 3 points, 12 less.
Now, what training, what actually caused you to be trained in shadowing? Like, what did your character do?
I think she, either she's been trained by some other hero, or, I kind of like the idea that she got the bug for crime fighting because of a familial connection, like somebody's a private eye or somebody's a, yeah, I think like a private eye, maybe. So like, whoever raised her did that for a living, and so maybe ill-advisedly took her on things sometimes and showed her how to follow somebody without being noticed.
Would you say private eye, or would you say someone in the police?
I'd say private eye. Outside of someone who would be doing like snooping jobs, not so much police work.
All right, then so shadowing is fine. I also want you to take deduction at a familiarity.
Okay.
So it's 1 point for deduction 8 or less.
Okay.
And familiarity with criminology.
Okay.
And we may adjust those later depending on how much you want to lean into that.
Probably
Criminology
not.
is like
Probably
dusting
not a
footprints and
ton.
all
Yeah,
the
probably
like.
not a
But
ton of it.
Well, if you know how to shadow someone because someone trained you, then you at least have a passing familiarity with both of those.
Yeah.
Probably not forensic medicine, just because
No.
private eyes don't tend to deal with corpses directly.
No.
All right, I think that's gonna be it for that.
She definitely doesn't have ventriloquism as much as it pains me.
Let's talk martial arts.
Yeah.
And this is a fun time to use the actual books. So, did I give you the martial arts book?
I think so. Yes. Let me open it.
All right, so pop that open. They should have boxing in here.
Yeah, boxing modern and boxing ancient.
So you're probably boxing modern.
Probably modern, yeah. Yeah.
All right, so you'll see on the left-hand side, it's got the box for boxing modern. These are the different potential maneuvers that you can buy for martial arts. You need at least 3 maneuvers to be considered proficient at that martial art.
Okay.
So we need to pick at least 3. And we'll put them in, and they affect, when you do them, until your next turn, they affect your OCV and your DCV. Some of them are specifically abort actions, some of them are specific to grabs and various other things. But yeah, so these are the things. And you can also take this allows you to take these skills like knowledge skill boxing and paramedic as part of like your package there.
Okay, yeah.
You probably want block.
Yes, I would say that.
And then you can choose or pick all of jab, hook, and cross, but it's a question of how proficient is your character at boxing.
I think she's very comfortable with it. She's probably kept it up. And continues to train. She's not going for like professional, but she could probably, without her powers, she could probably do very well in like an amateur circuit.
Okay. I mean, you've got some of the stats to back that up already. So let's just give you the whole package just for fun, and we'll go from there.
So,
right,
where does that all get put?
So if you look, attacks and maneuvers.
Okay.
On the first page.
Yeah.
You see a whole list of stuff there, and that is stuff that everyone can do.
Okay.
These specific maneuvers are also things that you can do. So if you look up at the top where it says block and it says +0/+0 block abort, what you have here, it's still called a block because it's a boxing thing, but it's technically, if you were looking in the book for it, it would be called a martial block.
Gotcha.
Where you can just call it block still, and you can put that in there. But we'll put that in. Just write down. You can write down the maneuvers there, and then down in your skills, perks, and talents section, just write boxing, and then underneath that, write each of the maneuvers and the point total for each of the maneuvers. Gotcha. And then just keep in mind that you have them written down in your attacks and maneuvers section up above. And I have to go through the program and do this. That's just block. Easy peasy. That is... I believe that's just crap, right?
That's 7,
Yeah,
8, 9,
that's
10,
just
11,
grab.
12, 13,
Easy
14,
peasy.
16, 17, 19.
Clinch. Jab is defensive no, offensive strike?
And then do I throw knowledge, skill, boxing, or is that what these are?
Knowledge skill, yes, you throw knowledge skill boxing where your knowledge skills are.
Okay. And is there a cost associated with that?
Yes, it is 2 points for an 11 or less.
Okay.
Not it. What? The one problem... Goodness, that's not it. That's not it either. We're just going to build it as a custom maneuver because I cannot figure out...
Oh, no.
cannot figure out where the the jab is in the program, but it's fine. I can just do this. That's fine. Is no damage classes, so 3. Yeah. Yeah, that looks right. So that, and then that is just a martial strike. Give me 1 second. Cross. And your hook is offensive? Yes. Cool. Now, based on your character description so far, I'm going to say that you are versed in using your powers with this. So
Sure.
you
Yeah.
specifically... it's called a weapon element. So underneath all of that, you're going to write weapon element powers.
Okay. Where am I putting that?
Underneath the martial maneuvers in the skills section.
Okay. And I'm putting what? I'm sorry.
Weapon element powers.
Okay.
So specifically, because you talked about being able to funnel that attack in, right?
Yeah.
So we may take this away if we just give you a boost of strength, but there's other ways that we can buy it, which might make more sense for what you're doing, in which case this will be necessary to make it work.
There's a comment, and I don't know what you think about it. It says characters might consider replacing the cross with a fast strike instead. Many modern boxers concentrate on power and speed and are willing to take a few blows if they can land a few. The fast strike with its OCV bonus better represents this strategy.
That is up to you. So martial
I don't
strike
know
gives you...
much, so...
So a martial strike gives you +2 to your DCV, but
Mhm.
doesn't change your OCV. A fast strike gives you +2 to your OCV, but doesn't change your DCV. Now, you probably knew about your powers before you really got into boxing, so I think fast strike makes sense for you.
Okay.
Because you do want to get hit.
Yes.
So we're going to put that in, and we're going to take out the cross.
Yeah. Where can I find Fast Strike?
It is +2 OCV, +0 DCV, and +2 damage classes, or +2 D6 strike.
Okay.
All right, so that's it for skills.
All right.
Let's talk perks really quickly.
Sure.
So there's not that many perks, but they're generally things for that you've earned that don't really fit elsewhere. They're not like powers that you use on the regular necessarily, but stuff like access. So access is like having government ID or like security clearance or things like that. That would be access, where you're literally allowed you're allowed access to heavily secured areas or buildings with secret entrances or special passageways or whatever. Security passes is the best example of access. Anonymity means that your record has been not just expunged but erased.
Gotcha.
Like
you're men in blacking.
If it does exist, it doesn't contain any useful information. No official or police record type of thing. Computer link has access to a heavily restricted database like governments or corporations.
That's like vaguely possible just because librarians and like research librarians tend to know at least know how to get to, if not have like subscriptions to specific databases that would give you historic records and things like that.
So let's take a look more closely then at that.
So the it says depending on the size and usefulness of the system. So local police, government, or corporate computer systems might be 1 to 3.
So that's up to you. The normal point is 3 points if we don't want to think too hard about it.
Yeah, 3's fine.
All right.
I think it's good to take to mark that you have it, but take the base level, because at the very least, I think as a public librarian, you would be able to look up people's addresses.
Yeah. You'd know where to find all of that stuff. So
yeah.
All right. Now we get into some things that are generated in gameplay, but because most champions characters, maybe your session 0 is your introduction, but like most Marvel and DC characters, you start off sort of in the middle of your career.
Right,
when issue 1 starts, maybe you get the backstory, and then after that it fast forwards to sometime later. So contacts are just people who occasionally can help you out. They usually hold a job or a position which can be helpful to the character. So maybe that private eye could be a contact.
Sure.
If you know other heroes, they could be contacts. If you have someone you talk to at City Hall, they could be a contact. Things like that.
Okay.
A favor is like a one-time contact. Maybe you saved the president's daughter and you have a one-off with him or something like that. Like he'll help you with something one time. So favor and contact are very similar. A follower is kind of like a sidekick. Someone who... And that's not necessarily something that we want to delve into right now, because that would be making a second character sheet.
No, I think it would be interesting. Maybe not having the contact, but having a favor with somebody in the criminal, like in the local gangs, might be interesting. Like it's a one-time thing.
Let's go back to skills real quick because I completely forgot.
Sure.
Can you drive?
I can competently drive. Not stunt driver, but...
No. So stunt driver would be combat driving, but being able to drive at all is a transport familiarity with common motorized ground vehicles. And that is 2 points. Do you have a license?
Yes.
So I believe... Can't remember which one a license is. I feel like...
Don't have a
it's
car, but do have a license.
I feel like it's a fringe benefit. I'll double check.
What's the cost and result of transport familiarity?
It is 2 points.
2
There's no
points.
roll for it. You just
Okay.
you know how cars work, and you can competently drive pretty much every vehicle. You know how to drive manual, know how to drive stick, blah
Okay.
blah blah.
Yeah, sure.
You're not super good under pressure with it because you don't have combat driving, but you know it's
Hmm.
doable. My son is dragging
License
something
to
across
practice a
the door to the office.
profession. The right to marry can perform a marriage ceremony. An international driver's license is 1 point.
That's probably fine.
Private investigator license.
We don't technically. So we do not have to buy. You can put a 0 point perk driver's license because I think if we're doing standard U.S. city, you're normally assumed to have a driver's license, and not having one would be a detriment rather than having one being like something you pay points for.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So you can just put a 0 point thing just so it's on the sheet, but it's not super important one way or the other.
Yeah.
Is your character incredibly well off or incredibly unwell off, or are they just sort of making ends meet?
Lower middle, not incredibly either direction.
Okay, so we'll not put any points into that at all.
Okay.
Positive reputation, I feel like, is something you are working towards.
Yeah.
So there are a number of factors for a reputation: the size of the group that you are known to, how well known you are, and what the reputation is all sort of affect the amount of points it is.
Okay. Let's see.
So what is your reputation? Is it in hero? Excuse me. Is it in hero ID? Is it in your normal ID, like your librarian ID? What is your reputation that you want to have?
I think that I have sort of a thought that she has a slightly different reputation depending on in or out of superhero mode. So I think as a librarian, it's a very much a neighborhood thing. It's going to be like they're an institution in the neighborhood. She doesn't own the library. She's just somebody who works with the kids a lot. And so people know her like they would know, like they probably, the people that show up there, they know her like they would their teacher.
Would you say that your reputation is that you are a safe person to talk to?
Yeah.
Like you don't.
She won't
if
give them
someone
shit.
talks
She
to you
won't call
about
the
their
cops on
problem-
you.
Right, exactly. So, protective, safe to talk to.
Yeah.
That's probably a small to medium. Well, you're known in your neighborhood, so we'll say a small to medium-sized group. How well known are you in your neighborhood? Is it just like a few people in the neighborhood know, or like everybody knows your reputation?
I think a few people know. I think it's gonna be like
Like if you had to pick low, middle, or high.
I would say probably low.
Okay. So that's fine. That's just 8 points then.
Yeah.
Or 1 point, sorry.
She keeps an eye out for the kids that really need that.
Mhm.
You know, and make sure they know she's that kind of person.
And how strong is the reputation? Would it? So the idea here is you buy it, the frequency and how widely known it is fine, but we can also buy points, like we can buy up the level, and what that means is you get circumstance bonus based on this reputation in your favor when it pops up.
I think it's pretty strong. I think the people that know that she's that kind of person, she is, like, she becomes the person they go to. She helps people with a lot of their shit if they know that she's the kind of person that they can go to.
All right, so we're gonna just throw that up to a level 4. So what that means is, for example, you have persuasion on an 11 or less. But if you are specifically trying to persuade, say, a kid who maybe you came in after hours one time, you found a kid hiding in the library, and they were like psyching themselves up to go do a crime. Instead of punching their lights out in your superhero persona, they know who you are. You now have a +4 to your persuasion in that circumstance, depending on how you approach it, to potentially talk them out of it because of what you're known for, because of your background in the community and things like that.
So
Instead
that's
of
a
an 11
cost
or
of
less
4?
in that specific situation, you'd have a 15 or less.
Okay.
So you would buy it. Let me pull it up. So positive reputation, and you can write that to protect the reputation however you want to,
Sure.
but it gives you a +4 or +4d6, and that is for things like presence attacks. And it's a total of 4 points.
Okay.
All right. I think that pretty much covers. That pretty much covers everything, honestly, except for the meat and potatoes of your character. We've done all the garnish, we've filled in, we've created the plate, we've created the table, we've stuck everything in the oven, and now we need to create your powers.
Yeah.
All right. We also haven't done complications, but we'll get to those.
Yeah.
Those are traditionally always the last thing I do. Just because they're always at the end of the character sheet. They're at the end of the program. I always do all the other stuff first.
These are so cool. These are so cool. Okay, let's actually talk about what you have to give up in order to have these things.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to absorb physical damage into physical attacks.
Right.
There are 3 different ways we can do this. The first way is you absorb damage to your physical stats. You literally beef up as you get hit, and then you hit harder for a while, and it slowly goes away.
Okay.
Option 2 is you put it into a hand attack. A hand attack is basically just buying extra dice to punch things, as opposed to dice to lift things and punch things and throw things.
Okay.
So it's not as expensive, and it is specifically to attack. And that sounds more like what you were talking about.
Yeah. I don't think she necessarily gets super strong. I think it's a hitting back with a concussive force that sort of reflects the amount of kinetic energy she absorbed.
Okay. So I'm going to look, because absorption, I'm used to doing it into stats, but I want to pull it up in our books so that we can look at that one. Because there's a couple of different things we can do. We can either put it into a hand attack, and we could have the hand attack run off of an endurance reserve, and basically you burn through the endurance on the attack, and that's it. Or we could put it into charges that are boostable, which basically you can either send out a couple of hits, or like you can put all of those charges into one punch or something like that. So there's a couple of different ways we can look at it, but let's pull up absorption powers, using powers. Power descriptions 165, so probably like 170-ish. Nope, too far. Absorption. All right. So absorption is based on the kinetic damage or body that you would take.
Worm in a suit.
Perfect. Earthworm Jim.
Easy. Librarian face hugger. That
perfect.
Works.
So the base cost of it is 1 character point for every 1 body of absorption. And you can double the maximum amount of your absorption for a +1/4 advantage. The way advantages and limitations work is you buy whatever your base amount of the power is, and then you multiply by the amount of advantages you have and divide by the disadvantages you have, and you come out with the real cost of the power.
Okay.
So. Absorption character must be hit. Body. Blah blah. Fade rate. Maximum effect.
So
Absorption as defense. There, I was looking for absorption as
yeah,
defense because that's an important
defensive
part of what we're looking
absorption.
for.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to put this on the sheet first. It is not energy, it is physical. Add modifier, advantage, absorption as defense. We're going to say that it is also resistant.
Okay.
So you remember we talked about there's a couple of different types of damage in the game.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, you deal with either normal damage or killing damage. This means that if we buy it as resistant, it means if someone shoots you, you also absorb that and potentially don't take that damage.
Okay.
If we just bought it as normal, someone punching you would fuel it, but someone shooting you would just rip right through.
I like the idea that she would either have that or grow into that.
All right, so we're gonna have it for now.
Okay.
And then we'll see if we need to change that.
Okay.
All right, so that's fine. So absorption is defense. That's good. Right now, we're not done with it yet. I'm just putting it into the system.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to do something a little weird. We're going to buy it as a hand attack. And let's say it can go all the way up to campaign max. Your strength is 16, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not including your boxing skills in this. I probably should, but I'm not going to, just for funsies.
Sure.
And we are going to create an endurance reserve. So we're going to put, let's see, 45 into that. Recovery is 0. This does not recover at all. So this is your kinetic battery. We'll just call it your kinetic battery and go with that. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have your hand attack doesn't come from your muscles. It comes from however your body stores the kinetic energy. We're going to call that your kinetic battery. And the power for your hand attack comes from there specifically.
Okay.
You can't use it if you haven't taken physical absorption.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And that will come from endurance reserve. So that is fine. What do you want to call this ability, by the way?
I don't mind calling it a kinetic battery.
But what do you want to call the attack when you release it?
Let's call it like blowback.
Sick. Kinetic blowback or just blowback?
Kinetic blowback is fine.
All right. So your kinetic blowback is going to be a hand-to-hand attack plus 9d6, which gets you up to the campaign max for what we're doing. But we are also going to increase its endurance cost.
Okay.
Where is it? Extra endurance? Where did it go? Increase endurance cost. There it is. And I want it so basically, if you use it entirely, it burns through the whole thing.
Okay.
That almost there. That's fine. It's close enough. So it costs you 40 endurance to use the full 9 dice of the attack. Your endurance reserve is 40. We'll just say that it's I guess we'll say that it's 45 endurance. It's fine. There's a little bit of leftover there, but we'll make it work.
Okay.
And so the way that this works is the hand attack itself, you do not have to put everything into it all at once, but the more you have in the tank, the more you can use.
Okay. That sounds right.
Let me see. I just want to double check something with hand attacks to make sure that you can.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that you can just use less, but let's jump down to hand attacks and make sure. Because the other thing that will happen here is if I'm not buying it correctly, you will, I guess, burn through however much endurance is in your kinetic battery and then start burning your own or burning stun. So I have to double check that. Because that's not the way we want to buy it. We just want it to not work beyond a certain point. Let's check endurance reserves. Oh god, there's like 3 or 4 places it is. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. We could say that you could use this burst of power not just to punch but also to lift and throw, and we just make instead of buying it as a hand attack, we buy it as just strength.
Sure.
So let's actually do that, because that I know you can adjust how much you're using of.
Okay.
So characteristics, strength, 45 strength, endurance reserve, increased endurance cost, 10 times endurance. Done.
Would it be possible for you to just send me a screenshot of what you've got working with the character sheet then? Because I've sort of given up trying to know where to write things.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
We're doing this in Power, so I will. Yeah. I'm actually going to send you the whole character sheet when we're done.
Awesome. Never mind. I'll stop writing.
All right. So we wanted this kinetic blowback. And that's fine. It blows through all of that endurance if you use all of that endurance. So that's fine. So that power to be able to hit with like 12 dice, if you've gotten hit enough, only costs you a total of 9 points because of how much endurance it costs you.
Nice.
As opposed to the 45 points it would have cost you if you just bought 60 strength.
Gotcha.
All right, now we need to figure out how you can do this without immediately getting killed. Let me put in a separator. Okay. So you want to be able to absorb all of that in one go, I assume.
Yeah, I would think so.
Like, if something hard hits you hard enough, then you can absorb all of it.
Yeah.
Is that the general idea?
Yeah, that would be the idea. I don't mind it being something where, like, she can absorb up to a point or up to a threshold, but yeah, the idea would be to absorb the hits completely.
All right, so each one a body. Must be hit. Amount of body is how much body you can absorb. 1 character point. Okay. So let's just see how much it would cost you to actually just buy this straight out. Oh. All right. So if we wanted to build this as an NPC, not a problem, but it doesn't quite fit with our campaign max total. Because if you can absorb up to 45 body in one go, it costs you 90 points.
Okay.
So we can adjust this down so that you can absorb up to 30 body in one go.
Okay.
And then, or, well, I'll mess around with it a little bit because we're going to do increased maximum. And instead of 30, we're going to bump it down a little bit. Okay, so 26 body. Yeah. 26 body at once. So you get hit twice with something that does that amount of damage, and you'll be fully beefed up. Okay? Now, something to keep in mind with this is that the way we currently have it bought, you have to take a lot of damage to get up to that maximum potential. Like an
Okay.
average person punching you does maybe 2 or 3 body. And so you wouldn't even be able to use your kinetic blowback until someone had done a total of 10 body to you. Now
Okay.
you've got decent stuff with your martial arts. Like you're doing. Oh wait, hold on. I need to change the way that this is added. There we go. So like with your martial arts, you're doing anywhere between 3d6 to 7d6 of damage. Your fast cross is 5d6, which isn't bad. Like if you're fighting just a dude on the street, you're gonna take him down pretty quick with that. The powers really only come into effect once you start fighting things that are super powered.
Yeah.
And sort of that's when you would start throwing that out. Because like 7d6 is a little low for... It's not low, but it's low for what you have in terms of your other stats. And then to be able to increase it by 9 dice is the scary part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's do this for now. Now, the downside to your character currently is that if anybody has any energy weapons at all, you go down super fast.
Gotcha.
So that might be something you want to address, as it were.
Have there be some element of it that is energy absorption?
Could be.
Because if it is... Okay, so she's absorbing kinetic energy, which would be a physical attack, something... But... But yeah, if there is a chance of taking like a fraction of energy, maybe not all of it, maybe it's not as efficient for her to do it.
We could. There's something else that I want to do with this as well. Right now, you absorb body, but you take all that stun.
Right.
So we need to give you some form of defenses for dealing with the stun that you're going to be taking, because that is sort of the purpose of what you're doing. So there's a couple of things that we can do here. One of them is just to buy you extra defenses. So it's just, and we would put a limitation on the defenses that say it's stun only. So like all of the physical damage that you're dealing with is going through your absorption, and that's fine. But everything else would be you just don't feel it as much. We can either do that by reducing it by a percentage, called damage reduction, or we can just buy your defenses. So there's a certain thing you don't feel, and then you feel everything beyond that. I think for your character, it makes sense that you would feel it, but just less.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, she's not like immune to pain. It's just she knows that she's going to be able to turn it back around on somebody.
So we're going to buy it at 75%, which is nuts. But we're going to do it because I want to see stun only. There we go. Yes, done. All right. Okay, so let me just edit that so it's stun only. All right, so let's throw out a hypothetical example. Let's say someone is hitting you, like an evil brick is hitting you for a full 12 dice of damage. Let me pull up dice roller. Oh, that's irritating. Wait, there we go. So let's do 12 6-sided dice. All right, so that was actually not a great roll. But we'll go through it anyways. All right.
Okay.
So this is 37 stun. And looking at the numbers, it's not quite 12 body. It is. I'm just going to re-roll that because that's not a helpful thing. There we go. That's more helpful. This is 48 stun and 14 body. So if we are dealing with what you have, you would not take any of that body. It would all go into your absorption because you can take up to 26 in a turn, right?
Okay.
And then you have currently 5 defenses. The way damage reduction works is you take the defenses away first, and then you reduce the rest by however much. So you have 5 defenses, I believe. 5 PD? Is that what we said?
Let's see.
4. You said you had 4 PD.
Yeah.
So 48 down to 44, and then you would quarter that to 11.
Okay.
So you would take 11 stun. Now, in game terms, that would hurt quite a bit, but your con is 20. So to stun you, someone would have to do 85 stun in a single attack to you. Because it has to go past your con.
Yeah.
However, with your current stun score, which is 40, that first shot of 11 damage is about a quarter of your stun before you would be dropping down to unconsciousness.
Okay.
So potentially what we should do is we should buy up your stun.
Okay.
We could also adjust. I'm going to adjust a little bit on the powers. If we're running a an active point campaign where it is. I'm gonna drop down to 24 body absorption. So any one attack, even if they max roll dice, you'll absorb all of that in one go. If you take that max roll more than twice, you'll start taking actual body damage.
Okay.
Because it'll basically overload your kinetic battery and you'll start to rupture.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me edit that so it says... Alright, so this is bad. I don't think you need any specific OCV or DCV boosts necessarily, because you don't want to be completely missable. So 6 DCV is good. In fact, if you want to get hit, maybe you should drop it by 1 to 5, but we can leave that there. Your OCV is 7, which is pretty normal brick. A little high maybe, but it's fine for what we're doing.
Okay.
Especially since you start not brick-like, and a lot of your martial arts options give you bonuses to your OCV. The only one that doesn't is your hook, which is it just does more damage. Okay. That's the basic character, I think. So let me export this and send it to you real quick.
Awesome.
Save character. What's your character's name?
Verdaliant. V-E-R...
Verdaliant.
Yeah, V-E-R-D, and then Alliance, I think is basically what it is.
Oh, hopefully I spelled that right. So we'll save that. We will print PDF. And I can always fill this in later with more stuff.
Okay.
I might have to change that a little bit, but that's all right. You currently do get completely hosed by any energy weapons, so we might want to make a change to that. But let's just put this in for you for now, and then we'll come back to it, because you do have some points left over, but we also have the complications to make. All right, so let's talk about complications before we jump into that, because I want to do the complications before we're done for the night, and then we can always readjust the character later.
Yeah.
Okay. The main things that you usually pull complications from are psychological limitations, psychological complications, social complications, and then maybe like a dependent NPC, like Lois Lane or Jimmy Olsen to Superman. They would be DNPCs. They would be someone who regularly get in trouble that they have to rescue.
Sure.
A physical complication is something that physically is wrong with you or that you physically can't do. Like if you need glasses, or if you only have one leg, or that type of thing.
Okay.
A psychological complication is one of the most common. It's generally just what your character either feels compelled to do, or what your character refuses to do out of principle, or what your character has phobias about or shies away from, things like that.
Okay. I don't mind having somebody who gets into trouble because of knowing her. I don't mind that so much.
My cat is yowling at the door because they're a jerk.
What page are we on?
Complications are pretty far back there.
I do just want to give a time check real quick.
Yeah, we're half hour past normal time.
All right, so I will give you some very quick examples of things, and you can tell me whether you want to do them or not.
Okay. I found it, 414.
Most heroes have codes versus killing. They very strictly follow that they don't want to kill someone. if a situation comes down to like you die or I die, then it becomes I die. You can buy it down to lesser levels where most people have like a 10-point code versus killing. They don't like killing, but if it's you or me, I will choose myself to survive and I'll kill you if I have to, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But heroes tend to be heroes for a reason. Do you want it to be a 15-point or a 20-point? 15-point is like if it's you or me, there has to be another way. I'm not going to pull the trigger. I'm not going to make that choice. And a 20-point is I will sacrifice myself rather than kill someone.
15.
All right. So that's common, strong, code versus killing. It's 15 points. Is your character overconfident?
Yes.
That is another 15-pointer.
She's someone who can take damage. She's gonna assume she can handle it.
Yeah.
Even if she
So
doesn't know the exact, like, the science behind her powers or the limitations of it. She's not run into a situation. I would imagine at the point where she'd be in the game, she's small time enough that she hasn't run into a situation that she couldn't handle yet. And so
Fair.
she hasn't had that big knockdown moment of like, you need to know your limitations.
I'm also going to put one in here, protective of innocence.
Yes, absolutely.
You very specifically, the way you described it is very much you need to go out of your way to protect these people. It fits with the way your powers manifest and all of that. So that is a 20-point common and total. We can talk about whether you want it to be total or strong, but it makes sense for your character to unthinkingly try to protect people first.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Now
we shouldn't go more than, I think it's no more than 75 in any category. We're up to 50 for your psych complications. Do you have any fears or phobias, hatreds?
Probably. If there's a hatred, it's probably of people that take advantage of other people. So like the ones that kind of punch down. She probably bullies. Bullies are probably a thing she's very. However that is interpreted, like that could be a bully on many different scales of things. That could be something even from like people who victimize like less fortunate people, but it could also be, you know, like a big cat businessman who clearly ruins people for their benefit.
We're going to say can't stand unjust behavior. I'm going to keep it at moderate. It's unless you want your character like dropping out of her secret ID to go punch someone in the face. I
don't think she would do that.
Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to jump down to social complication. Okay. You have a secret ID. Secret identity tends to be 10 points. Frequently major. So maybe 15 points. Yeah. So social complication, secret ID. You can fill in whatever that's going to be, whoever you are going to be later. There's probably not a whole lot of other social complications that you have.
I don't think so.
Do you have a susceptibility to a substance the way Superman does to kryptonite?
I'd have to think about what the even if it's just what the pseudo-scientific implications of absorbing kinetic energy would be.
Sure. So that's something we can think about. Sure. We're not quite going to finish the character because it is well past time.
I like susceptibility to salt.
Oh, jeez. Slugman.
Oh.
All right, so there's negative reputations. So you have a positive reputation within the community as your secret ID. You could have a negative reputation as your hero, but you don't necessarily have to do that.
I like she was originally built as a little bit of an anti-hero. the idea that she does hit first when it comes to being in some situations, like
But
the
a negative
overconfidence and
reputation
things.
specifically has you viewed in an unfavorable light.
Oh, like a
You
Spider-Man
already,
to the
yeah,
public
yeah.
kind of J.J. Jameson thing. Okay, so it's not really so much that. I think she's more seen as potentially a little bit of a chaotic variable, but not necessarily a harmful variable.
Sure. So you are probably watched by. You're probably watched by the police.
Sure. She
Um,
probably has, like, she probably does get a little bit pegged as I mean, she is a vigilante. So.
So it depends. Do you want that to be sort of infrequent or frequent or very frequent? How often do you want that to occur to you?
Let's say frequent. She probably has to dodge the cops.
All right, so that's
quite a bit.
City PD. You probably also have made some enemies, but we're going to put them as mystery hunteds.
Sure.
One of them will be more powerful, but mostly just wants to embarrass you.
Cool. What a dick.
And one of them will be more powerful and definitely doesn't like you very much, but is limited to a certain space. And this person actually has that. Okay, that is up to 105. Do you want a rivalry?
Sure. That sounds fun.
So we could do... You could do a professional rivalry, a romantic rivalry, or a professional and romantic rivalry.
Professional as in superhero or professional as in out of superhero?
Either way.
I like the idea of a... by romantic rivalry, do you mean, like, you both like the same person?
Yeah.
Just a rivalry, I think.
So is this superhero rivalry or librarian
I think
rivalry?
I think it's a superhero one.
So let's have them be as powerful as you are. Not harm or kill, just outdo, embarrass, or humiliate. Hero of your choice. Whoever it is. That's 5 points. So we would need to fill out another 40 points of complications, which, you can think about.
Sure.
And I personally, because we haven't spent all of your points, so I personally think we should do something with energy as well.
Sure. She very much hasn't we haven't really talked much about, like, what would happen if she started dealing with a different power level or a different source of power. Because if she's just dealing with, like, thugs and things like that, she's just she doesn't feel out of her league, or she doesn't feel like she's pushing herself to her limit or anything.
All right, so let me export this and send it over to you.
Awesome.
Oh, give me her name one more time.
Verdaliance.
So that's her hero
That's her
ID?
superhero name. Yeah, it's her superhero name.
All right, so what is her non-superhero ID?
Her non-superhero name is Valerie. Vallory. And I think I gave her the last name Kingsmill. Kingsmill.
Cool. Okay. Print. All right, Verdaliance. And we can make some adjustments to it as necessary, but the character sheet itself is done. So let me get that to you real quick.
Kick ass.
And my documents folder. Why is that in my documents folder? Oh, I have to hit send. All right, now it's sent.
All right, kick ass.
So you can pull that up, and if you want to show the stream, you can show the stream.
Alrighty. Let's see. That. Hero system folder. Alright. Let's open this in the right folder though. Or in the right program. There we go. Okay. So. Okay, and so we've got, I like that with the being able to compare when the powers are activated. That's very cool.
So this gives you basically everything you would need to do to play the character in the game.
Okay, awesome. Blowback, very cool. Awesome. Well, she's fun, and now I want to play her. Damn it.
Well, that's something we can arrange at a later date.
Yes, we are talking about that. So, awesome. Well, what I can do is I can share this on the Discord if people want to check it out. And I'm, of course, making her on Hero Forge, so there'll be that too.
And if you wanted, just so people can get an idea of it, then you and I can talk later about writing out like a scenario where she does something, and we can type it all up and then turn it into a story. But we can deal with that another time.
Awesome. Well, that is what we've got for today. I know we ran a little over, but there were complications to make. And thank you so much for everybody who joined us tonight. This is the Hero System 6th edition, previously known as Champions, right?
And still the genre book is still Champions.
Right. There are several different genres. This is kind of a genre agnostic system. There's a lot of different, or at least there's lots of different genres you can play around in this, including fantasy. And yeah, you can check it out. I highly recommend having somebody like RC to to guide you through it. It is
my app there. I'm happy to do it.
It's true. Is there anywhere you want to pitch people to check you out, or where you're most active?
I think honestly, right now, I'm the most active on Twitter. I do have a Hive now.
Everyone's got the backups just in case.
It's just at Suzume Taka. I was able to nag just my name instead of having to add something at the end. So that's nice. But I think right now mostly I'm just active on Twitter and on most of the time the Nerdsmith Discord. That's where
happy to have you.
That's where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, so everyone who is out there, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your night. Franz, thank you for vibing in the background. You're appreciated.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm learning this. It's like a podcast, I swear.
I'm glad it's relaxing for you. With our amazing music too. Malcolm Horn is the artist who created the music that we listen to. It is DMCA free music. You are free to use it on your streams. Malcolm encourages you to use it on your streams. He is also known as Music Man 1017. He does some really cool stuff. Here, I'll put his Twitter up on the chat so you can check out Malcolm. And his albums. There are 3 that you can stream while you can run while you're streaming. I have them just running in YouTube Music. So yeah, that's and so again, just a reminder, we've got December is World Ember with World Anvil, so we'll be doing some world building with Bag World, which I'm very excited about, also known as the Gates of Holding. It's based off of a gated bag of holding that I had. There's like multiple bags of holding, and then if a player wants to pull from it, they can use it like a regular bag of holding, but they can also just pull a random item and you roll to see who owns that bag. And like one of the bags is the BBEG of the campaign owns this bag, or a rival adventuring party owns this bag, or a good aligned deity, or there's a bunch of them. It's really fun. And so you can just kind of like give them random shit and be like, yeah, you totally stole this. I had them pull a body out of a bag one time. That was a fun little side quest where they brought her back to life. She had just been shoved in the bag by a bunch of mobsters she owed money to. And they brought her back and they're like, hey, you're across the world now, so you're probably pretty safe. They also started getting notes from a wizard. Like, hey, I know you took my shit. So we're going to be exploring what happens when when an item slips through a bag and gets lost. So we'll be doing that. We also, with Die Hard Dice as one of our sponsors, we now have a set of dice that are Nerdsmith themed dice. You can find Forge Fire on dieharddice.com. And if you buy anything now during their sale, during their holiday sale, almost everything, if not everything on the website is on sale right now. But you can use the code Nerdsmith or use our discount link and get 10% off your purchase. You should definitely check it all out. Yeah, that's pretty much all we got. Tomorrow is Tuesday, which means we're running Tabula Rakshasa, our Lost Memory one-shot series. We've got our players ready to go, and I'm very excited about tomorrow. It should be even more nonsense than usual. And oh yeah, you don't even know. If you're interested at all, please check us out. Same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, here on the channel. And it promises to be a good time. We've had a good time every single time so far. And it is also Treasure Tuesday, so we'll see what Hero Forge has to offer. I'm always very excited, especially around the holidays. They usually release cool stuff in December. Anyway, you all have a wonderful rest of your night. Be safe, make good choices, and above all, do us a favor and be good to each other. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I won't ever about to dance. I'm just like I tell you. And when I say hold yourself, I want all of you get ready to stop.